Ross?
Mary, one of the stories we're following, British Airways and its biggest union are in last-minute talks trying to avert a two-day strike by cabin crew, which would start tomorrow. If it does go ahead, 140,000 passengers would be affected. What would be the impact on the airline? Joining us, Paul O'Neill, Director of Transport at Deloitte. Paul, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Morning, Ross.
If this strike does go ahead, we're talking about a lot of 1,300 flights being cancelled over Tuesday and Wednesday. What materially is the impact on BA of that? Would that be?
Well, you can do a simple calculation. Maybe the giving into the union proposals would be $30 million, and the damage could be of the strike could be $100 million. So maybe we're looking at that sort of calculation. But life's never that simple. Okay, what we have here there's three rings of issues. There's the core issue about which we're negotiating today: sick pay, pensions, differential pay rates for cabin crew, and that's what the argument in the press and possibly off the table is covering. But there's an outer ring, more fundamental issues, and from the union's point of view, I mean, there are two unions here who are in contention with management, Transport in general, and GMB, and they play a sort of membership poaching game with the members in BA, and of course their leadership are trying to appear more responsible, more attractive to the membership, and that grows the membership of the unions. So that's their secondary issue. And of course from BA's point of view, the secondary issue there is, well, there's an announcement of a pending strike, and BA's share price gets a 2% hit. Dropping 2% in your shares is not good, but it's not a crisis. If the shareholders perceive that management were giving in to union demands, we will be looking at a much greater hit. So that's the sort of secondary issue for BA. And then meanwhile, outside the whole of that negotiation, we have Terminal 5 and the long-term pensions issue. And neither side wants to give in on that, and neither side wants to get into too big a conflict. Nobody wants a strike.
So what happens? What's the upshot here? I mean, we've got other strikes are being threatened for February as well. Do we get the strikes, do you believe? And do BA in the end get what they want, the management, I mean?
The constituencies behind the unions and behind BA management, clearly they're looking for an outcome. I think the preferred outcome for both union management, so union leaders, and for the airline management, I think it would be a very tough negotiated, and congratulations to the other side, tough opponent, but we've come out with a mutually satisfactory agreement. And I think that's the right way for them to come out. I think that's what both sides are looking for. Could come out at the last minute. If it came out today, or came out now, BA has still lost a huge amount of money, even if the strike doesn't happen, because they've cancelled and they've got staff and planes in the wrong place. But that would be a great equitable balance if they came out today. If they came out after the first strike, because the second strikes are in February, or they're both in February, the second and third scheduled flights, they're both in February. They came out after the strike and said, right, we don't need other strikes because both sides have found a way forward and we are very happy working with this group, then again, I think is a victory. It's a victory. I don't think either side wants lots and lots of strikes. Certainly it's not good for the unions.
Paul, Christine here. Speaking of tough, it's also tough times for Air Italia, the company forecasting bigger loss for 2006. How is this likely to affect the sale of the company?
From Alitalia's point of view, Alitalia is really just almost a focus, a microcosm of what's happening across the industry, not just in Europe, but also across the world. They're facing issues like the long-term poor performance of airlines in destroying value, poor return on investment. They're representing industry-wide problems like public sector legacy of staff practices. They're also dealing with more recent issues like the constant and significant fluctuation and volatility of the fuel price. They also face issues across the industry of wherever they're a buyer of services around their global network, they're a weak buyer because the local supplier, maybe an airport, is almost a monopoly supplier. So again, all these issues are affecting everybody in the industry, and Alitalia is really just a representative of that.
Paul, this is Mary Thompson in the United States. It seems to be a rite of passage for any U.S. carrier to go through or operate under Chapter 11 bankruptcy. My question is, we've got a couple of majors coming out of bankruptcy or scheduled to this year, Delta and Northwest. Have they made the fundamental changes to their business that they need to make in order to be stronger financially for the longer term?
Then the answer, Mary, you won't be surprised to find, is a yes and a no. There have been massive successes from management which can only be achieved with the cooperation of the workers in reducing costs across the US industry. Massive costs cutting, very effective. But probably the fundamental issue which needs to be in place to make the US aviation turn into some sort of success picture is reduction in capacity. And frankly, we haven't seen that. We still have far too many seats chasing far too few passengers. Now, There has been some progress in there. We've had US Airways and America West merge, but frankly we didn't see much capacity drop out there, and it's only one corner of the market. The open negotiations, maybe Delta's going to be involved with US, maybe American Airlines is playing in there, maybe Delta and Continental. So there's an open debate about, well, can we achieve other consolidation here? Great if it could happen, great for the industry in the US if it can happen, but it'll only be a success if it does result in the reduction of capacity, and that's not a guarantee.
Paul, have a good week. Thank you. Paul O'Neill joining us from Deloitte.